Well, thanks, Jen. It is fantastic to be here, and just the buzz around the room from what has clearly been a brilliant morning of substantial agreement. I mean, that is evident from that plenary session, and it's so good that everyone's come together for this conference, because I think one of the big themes, we were talking with Ben and Dave Budd this morning, launching the Advanced Manufacturing Park, that while the country seems to be talking almost exclusively about Brexit, actually here and in other places of the country, solidly the progress that's being made in setting out the plans that whatever we do are going to deliver really good jobs, livelihoods for people over the years. It's getting on, and it's very tangible, and that's evident today. It's great to have Jane being the coordinator of today and bringing us all together. And it's good to be in the university. I still think of it as Teesside Poly, I'm afraid, because I was in the library doing my revision for my A-levels many years ago here, and I remember thinking that the students seemed to be intimidatingly old. And now it's sort of Freshers' Week, and I walk around, and I think they seem to have got younger. I don't know whether this is to do with admissions criteria changing, or whether it's the passage of time. But it's good to be here, and the way that the university is developing and prospering and driving forward not only its own contribution to lives and the economy, but the connections that it has evident in this room is really great to see. And I know that the new business school is going to strengthen that even further. New digital production centre, new central laboratory, even some new student accommodation, I gather, is in prospect as well, and of course conference facilities and more. And of course, perhaps the most exciting new addition is the young Irishman who arrived in Billingham in 1978, went for a pint in the Sun Inn, I believe, and has been part of Teesside ever since. And there is at the back Paul Drexler, who I've worked with very closely during his presidency of the CBI, and it's fantastic that he is the Chancellor of this university now. And I know that his leadership, combined with the leadership of the university here, will power not just the university but the region from strength to strength. And we're talking about the future, but I think congratulations are due to the university for winning the Improving Business Environment category in the Enterprising Britain Award. So a real recognition of what the university does already. It's totally obvious from everyone in the room that there are so many different reasons to be optimistic and excited about what's going on here in the Tees Valley. This is a Northeast conference, so I should also reference and pay tribute and acknowledgement to what is taking place right across the Northeast, and our colleagues from around the town and the Weir and all across the region. I know make a big contribution to this. Actually, the themes that you've been talking about in your breakout discussions: clean energy, AI in the digital economy, advanced manufacturing, and biosciences. These are the areas that our industrial strategy as a nation have concentrated on. That's not a coincidence, because the way that we did it was very much drawing on the advice from many people in this room and across the country. And I think what is particularly exciting about the focus that you've had is that these are the changes that are revolutionising the world. Whatever the ups and downs of our domestic politics and debates, we know that when it comes to AI and digital, almost every industry in the world is being transformed now in every country by these technologies. If we think about clean energy across the whole world, the world is transitioning from polluting forms of power generation and its use to clean and indeed circular forms. And the strength that we have in biosciences, especially important in medicine, of course. One of the things that I was struck by in developing our industrial strategy was that in the UK today, in the current population, there are 15,000 people who have reached their 100th birthday. 15,000 centenarians. But in the current UK population, not the future, but the current UK population, 10 million of us can expect to live to our 100th birthday. Huge transformation. And think of all of the challenges that brings for biosciences, and to make sure that we have medical innovation both in treatments and the way that, and aids to how we live our lives, so that those years can be enjoyable years. And of course the big implications for everyone in business in terms of the world of work and pensions and all the rest of it. Vast transformation. And of course, when it comes to some of the applications of advanced manufacturing, the future of mobility, the way that we get around is going to change substantially, whether it'll be proof against storms bringing down power lines. This might be one of the early applications that we need. But the exciting thing about all these things, and I hadn't known that these were going to be the themes of your discussion this morning, it is evident, and you've just been presenting on this, that they are a list of the North East strengths, historically, currently, and into the future. And so whenever you're developing a strategy, whether it's for a sector, whether it's for a region, or whether it's for the nation or a company, you should always look on your strengths, see whether they're going to be in demand in the future. And this exciting moment is that when we look at our strengths and we see what is happening in the future and around the world, there is such an opportunity for all of us in this room, and this is what this conference is about. When it comes to Brexit, we will, of course, conclude the discussions over the weeks ahead. But I think what has been said today shows that whatever the deal that we reach, and I'm confident and optimistic that we will reach a good deal, I think it's important that the sophistication of many of the supply lines and the just-in-time delivery systems are reflected in a deal that allows those to continue uninterrupted. But what that should do is allow the strengths of the area to come out in the years ahead, so that future generations of Northeasterners can benefit from this great opportunity. I just wanted to talk a bit about, in some more detail, about some of the particular areas. And digital. I want to pay particular tribute to the university in this. Teesside University has always been one of the drivers of the digital economy here on Teesside. It goes back a very long time. When I was in South Bank studying O-level, you can tell how old I am, O-level computer studies in 1982 and 1983. Believe it or not, if you wanted to study computer studies and you wanted to do programming, we didn't have computers on every desk that you could do this on. And Teesside University, Teesside Poly as it was, rode to the rescue, and we had to fill in coding sheets that were then driven around to the university, typed into punch cards that were then put through the university's mainframe, and we got a long sort of printout that came back to us in South Bank, and this was our computer project for week after week. And so I think many people of my generation have a great debt of gratitude to your predecessors, Jane, and colleagues here at the university for that early contribution to the education in IT of the population. But actually, the people that had the privilege of studying here, this has always been a real focal point for innovation and discovery in IT, and so it's fantastic that we see that today. I know Dominic, we've heard from his company that he founded, I think, where is Dominic? There is. Dominic, you founded while studying here at Teesside, is that? Just after Teesside, so a good example of the spin-out benefits of an education here, and you specialise in VR,
immersive technologies, yes.
Which again is the media focus that this university has had has always been prominent, and the convergence of these technologies again I think is one of the most exciting opportunities. And again, it was very interesting just hearing the reports from the plenary sessions, how actually the common themes were present in each of the streams, which again shows that the breaking down barriers and moving out of silos is certainly the way in which we can prosper. I've been hearing, and I'd like to see about your Raptor experience.
Right, okay.
I don't know, have you been able to kind of show colleagues it today?
Yeah, well, you'll be able to come down to the office anytime.
Well, I would like to do that, because my colleagues that visited the Great Exhibition of the North were raving about the Raptor experience, and so I want to see that for myself. But of course, the applications of this at the TWI site this morning, we were looking at welding inspection and how crucial to in additive manufacturing it is to have ways of testing and inspecting that relies on the latest technology for that. And of course, kind of virtual and visual abilities to inspect manufacturing components are going to be very important to that, bringing together the data analytics with the visualization that is one of the big strengths here. This was the region that had one of the nation's first digital catapult centres, and the immersive lab will help many local firms here to nurture this part of their experience. Now, Steve and I know each other very well from the work that he's been talking about, and the innovation that's taking place in chemicals and in the life sciences industry generally is reminding people that the Northeast is now, as it has been in the past, a laboratory for the world. No one growing up here on Teesside and seeing the powerhouse that was ICI over all those years could have been in any doubt as to our contribution. But the exciting message is that those skills and those abilities didn't evaporate with ICI. They're still there. They're still there as part of the workforce, part of the culture, part of the university, part of the institutions, and part of the firms that now occupy those sites and others. And it is fantastic to see them progressing in the way that they are. And of course, Fujifilm's operation in Wilton is a good example of how that heritage of the interconnectedness of a lot of the facilities here is going to be so important. Real connections to what I was saying about the need that we have for innovation in medicine. The idea that using sensors to read DNA from blood samples can be a source of diagnosing conditions and diseases before even symptoms are presented. It's hugely important in the revolution that is taking place. And I know that on the Prime Minister's recent trade mission to India, Stephen and his colleagues were represented there and enthusiastically received by our colleagues in India. We're starting work will soon start on the Healthcare Futures Centre in Darlington, where again this focus on innovation in medicines will be part of the future and in the past. And we've been so lucky over the years here to have the Centre for Process Innovation. It is one of our standout national institutions. I've always been very proud that its substantial focus on Teesside has been there. Its great work was recognised and it got a big £100 million investment this summer as part of our Industrial Strategy Fund. As has been mentioned, the National Innovation Centre for Ageing is now up and running at the University of Newcastle. It was my pleasure and privilege to be with some people there. Andrew, I think, is in the room earlier in the summer to announce that open. This is a place that around the world is already recognised as being one of the leading sources of innovation and thought when it comes to ageing. And clean growth. No one, again, on Teesside, on the estuary of the Tees, could fail to see the colossal opportunity that we have from the heritage of marine engineering and the skills that has imparted to the population and to the institutions and the firms that we have here, combined with being on the edge of what is the North Sea, a sea of energy, just the exploitation of offshore wind. Now the UK, the world's leading offshore wind manufacturer and producer. Huge benefits to Teesside, and it's fantastic the way that the economy and the firms and the institutions have responded to that. again, we've got a long heritage in the northeast when it comes to energy, in particular to renewable energy. Lord Armstrong of Tyneside fame used his lakes on his Cragside estate to make his house the very first house in the world to be lit by hydroelectric power. And Armstrong foresaw that one day, and I quote from him, even the fitful power of the wind, now so little used, will probably acquire new life. And I think that foresight that a great northeasterner had all those years ago, I think he will see his prediction having come true, and a man that took such great pains to light a single home with renewable energy, what he would make of the wind farms now off our coast, off the coast of the northeast, that are capable of powering 1 million homes. It is an inspiring prospect. And of course, once complete, the Hornsea 1 project will do precisely that, 1 million homes to be powered by it. Firms in this room are making that possible. Engineering conducted on Teesside, EEW Offshore Structures, Wilton Engineering will be making the parts and the foundations for the turbines that are responsible for that. I think you've heard today from James Ritchie. Is James still in the room? There's James over there. And I'm sorry I wasn't in for your talk, but I have been hearing all about the contribution you're making to Hornsea 1. To be able to withstand, I think, the extremities of weather that are becoming more extreme, sort of linking into the natural environment with the engineering brilliance that you display, so that we can withstand storms that may have a 1% chance of happening, but given the resilience that we want to have and we need to expect, to have Northeast innovation doing that, I think is absolutely fantastic. And of course, we have in Blythe the catapult for offshore renewable energy, which is helping underpin that, and again, big investment that we had over the summer in it. And the final thing I just wanted to call out is the region's contribution on electric vehicles, the fourth of our grand challenges in our industrial strategy. Again, of course, the Northeast has been long an innovator in this. I like to think of myself as an early adopter of electric vehicle technology. Some of you know my dad was a milkman in South Bank, and when I was 17 and thought that driving lessons might be a good thing for a 17-year-old, he was full of enthusiasm, to my slight surprise. And I said, oh, great, when can I start? He said, you can start tomorrow. The lesson will be at 6 o'clock in the morning in Nomby Road, South Bank, and it'll be on the milk float, and there might be a few bottles to be delivered on the way. So I learned to drive in an electric vehicle with a top speed, I have to say, rather less than the Nissan Leaf that is manufactured in Sunderland today, and certainly of the new generation. But we do have a reputation worldwide in this. 1 in 5 of all of the electric vehicles that are produced in Europe are made in Britain, and of course made in the Sunderland plant. The supply chain was mentioned, really important, and one of our strengths is that we not just have big OEMs investing, but that we have good relationships, close relationships between the big manufacturers and suppliers. And so whether it's the manufacturing park in Sunderland that's been established close to the Nissan site, or the park that Ben and Dave Budd and I opened today, making sure that we've got the facilities for the supply chain as well as the major manufacturers, I think is going to be incredibly important. The Nissan Leaf, of course, goes from strength to strength, and the fact that the 5,000th battery pack has been produced in the Sunderland area, and is going to be predicted to be 10,000 in production next year, I think shows the momentum that is behind this expansion. So across the board, if you look at the areas in which our prosperity and the prosperity of the world in the years ahead is going to be developed, whether that's clean energy, whether it's the future of mobility, whether it's the challenges and opportunities that come from an aging society, people living longer than ever they imagined, whether it's the revolution in manufacturing and the analysis of data. These are areas that if you had to pick areas that were resonant with the strengths of the Northeast, these are those areas. And so the opportunity for us, it seems to me, in the years ahead is absolutely colossal. What do we need to do to address that? Well, the purpose of this conference, and as Jane so helpfully and commandingly compared in her chairing of the plenary session, making these connections work, making sure that the talent and the expertise that we have in different sectors right across the region come together so that one reinforces the other. Just as the Wilton site was conceived as one part of an industry providing feedstock to another. That is the story of business across the Northeast. Almost everyone here has connections with sectors immediately adjacent and sometimes beyond their own, making use of those connections. Making sure that we have a supportive a local environment. Just as countries can need to have a good environment in which to do business, so it's vital that regions should. And having the leadership that we have through having created the combined authority and having mayors like Ben and Dave to provide the visible leadership and sometimes the ability to crack through problems that might have defeated people over time before, I think is a big contribution to that. Making sure that we invest in the research and development of the future through universities like this and our other strong universities across the Northeast, making sure that we, through our colleges, translate the discoveries into the training that the workforce will need to be able to take advantage of it. This is what we have done in this region through all of our history, going back to our earliest foundation. It's a place of innovation, always has been. At Middlesbrough's Jubilee celebrations in 1881, they had the Archbishop of York along to give an address, perhaps it was a sermon. And what he said was that in 1881, Middlesbrough is the most remarkable place on this side of the globe. Perhaps in America, but America only, it may have found a parallel. These words were spoken of a town and a wider region that were marked by invention and innovation. And he was reflecting that in the century before, Stockton had invented the friction match, South Shields the lifeboat, Darlington public railways, Tyneside the light bulb and the crane. And so it seems to be essential that the voice of the Northeast and the practice of the Northeast, which I think often has been more muted than it deserves to have been and hasn't had the national and international recognition that it deserves. I think the time has come to be prominent in the leadership that this region has in all of these big revolutions that are sweeping around the world. So whether it's local firms, local universities, local leaders of all political colours, you are making this happen. And I think it's a proud moment in the history of our region. We need to continue that growth, we need to support it, we need to back it all the way. I've got complete faith that this will be enacted because the dynamic that is now unleashed, I think, is unstoppable. I've got every faith that it will fulfil its potential. So I hope that we take away from this conference, and Jane quite rightly wants to make sure that we take the actions forward. And all of those actions that have been resolved and entered into, and those people that have been press-ganged into leading the work behind them. I hope and know that you will succeed in what you're doing. You count on my complete support and all of the support that I can provide from government for this. I work very closely with the Mayor and his colleagues, the leaders of the councils right across the area, and of course with the many businesses that are represented in the room, as well as the colleges and the universities. It's fantastic to be part of what has been a great event. Thanks for inviting me, thanks for letting me be part of it, and I hope you'll have me back from time to time to see how progress continues. But thank you very much indeed.
We've got time for a couple of questions. Ian Gilthorpe, I think you've got a question you'd like to pose.
Thank you for your fascinating address. I welcome your comments on the importance of the UK wind sector to Tees Valley. Does this mean that it will be included within the industrial strategy as recommended by the Farm Report?
Absolutely. So One of the features of the industrial strategy is, as I said, to look at the technologies of the future that are going to have a big future. And sometimes in the past, industrial strategy has been criticised for picking winners. You've all heard that, and sometimes back in the 70s, the winners that were picked turned out to be losers, and you don't want to go back to that. But I think what we're doing is something different. We're not picking winners, but we're picking races. And the race to clean energy, I think, is a race that is one that we should pick and that we should be prominent in. And offshore wind is prominent amongst them. And so what we're doing with the strategies, we're entering into what we call sector deals. They came from the city deals and the devolution deals that resulted in people like Ben being elected, an agreement to devolve powers and to work more closely together than the past. We're taking that model and applying it to sectors, and I want offshore wind to be one of the next ones that we strike.
Thank you. And the second question comes from me, actually, Greg. That's okay. How does the North East region ensure that it becomes the best example in the UK of executing the industrial strategy? What specifically do we need to do so we're held as best in class?
Well, I think there are two parts to that, Jane. One to be recognised for it, and the second is to do it. To do it, I think we are doing it, and I think what is being done in terms of the investments in all the sectors, the preparation of facilities like the Advanced Manufacturing Park, I think there's real momentum there behind it, and that needs to continue. I would say that the coming together of local leaders, whether they're political and civic leaders, university leaders, business leaders, that I would say is one of the key contributors to the progress that's being made. There's a real sense that everyone is coming together rather than being in separate conversations. So I think that needs to continue. But then there's a question of getting the recognition for that. And I think it is the case that compared to some other places, I think northeasterners are a bit self-effacing and perhaps kind of don't bang the drum as much as they should. And you've been talking about that, and I think we should take the opportunity to perhaps be a bit more self-congratulatory when we've achieved what is being achieved in this area. I think we've all got a part to play in that, and I think one of the resolutions that all of the groups made is that we should do more of that and better of that, and I hope we will during the months ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.